So our next session is about the cyber industry trends, and we have 5 panel members to join. I'd like to introduce the panel moderator first, then moderator will introduce others, and they will talk about themselves. So our moderator is May Surround. May is the RBC Senior Director, Cyber Technology Office Partnership. And May is an innovative IT and cybersecurity leader with many years experience, mostly in financial industry. She has extensive experience leading large enterprise initiatives, implementing strategic solutions, and delivering best-in-class cybersecurity services. Let's welcome May.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm gonna actually, I know Brian introduced you guys by name, but I wanted to give you, just before we get started, give you an opportunity to say something about yourself to the audience.
So I'm Andrew Wertkin. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of BlueCat. BlueCat's been in the business of private DNS, the DNS that occurs inside the company, for 15 or 20 years now. And as the Chief Strategy Officer, I'm charged with working with our key customers, and we have some fantastic customers and partners, and working in the market to develop our product strategy and how we continue to drive more value in our customers.
Thank you.
Great. Dave from IBM. Anyone heard of IBM before? Actually, our RBC is a fantastic partner and client of ours from a security perspective and actually from a IT perspective, so thank you, May. For the past 9 years, I've been in cybersecurity, around a lot longer than that, as you can tell from the color of my beard. But at the moment, I'm actually working with IBM's Global Business Consulting Services team to help them with their digital transformations, cloud adoption, application development, and things of this nature, to help them to integrate security services and products into those solutions they're delivering for our clients.
Great. Good morning, everybody. I'm Stuart Dankevy, and I'm an enterprise security executive within Microsoft's Cybersecurity Solutions Group. So my role is really helping our customers, some of our largest global ones here in the Toronto area, on their path as they're adopting, cloud services and mobile and going through digital transformation, is what are the security considerations and controls and strategies that they might consider as they go along that path. So thanks for joining us today.
And last, and on the shared microphone, Peter Cresswell. I am a solutions architect with Trend Micro. That job entails working with, again, our major partners in the Canadian marketplace on their security solutions. We help them plan, design, integrate with the technologies they've got against the threats that they're seeing. And so that keeps me awake at night. I've been doing this from the graybeard perspective, in security specifically, for over 20 years.
You got me.
All right, so I wanted to actually talk about the kind of following up on what Matt was talking about, the challenges, the changes in the economy and the industry. So technology is evolving so quickly, and there's a lot of emerging technologies like the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, robotics, process automation. All these technologies are actually creating new business models, but also creating opportunities for unlocking new values for businesses. But those same technologies are increasing the risks that the organizations have to navigate. So we're going to talk today about those risks and how we can also maybe harness the same technologies to actually reduce or become more efficient in cyber and reduce that risk as well. So the first question, I'm probably going to go over to David. What would you say are the industry trends that are the biggest disruptors for cyber?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I think about a disruptor as someone like an Uber or, that's the popular one. So, and when I think of disruption, it really comes down to perspective. The disruption may be good for some, like the people that get to take transportation to and from places very easily, or it may not be very good for others, like traditional taxi drivers. And so when I think about this from a vendor perspective and driving cyber solutions into the marketplace, there's 2 ways to think about it. There's the traditional revenue streams as a vendor that we need to deal with going away. So instead of providing solutions that are more traditional on-premise, CapEx intensive, now we've got solutions that we're providing over the cloud in microservices that can be consumed in very small quantities. So as a vendor, it's disruptive because now we have to figure out ways to do business differently and justify that business, those business changes and choices to our shareholders. Conversely, on the client side, I think it's a disruption because now instead of being locked in for periods of time, having those huge CapEx expenditures that have to be depreciated over so long, massive rollout cycles, now they're able to consume, again, security, both products and services, almost in a microservice fashion from the cloud, which is much more cost effective. I think it's much more rapid. So it enables them to be able to move along with the speed of the business that they're working in.
Gentlemen, do you want to add to this?
Certainly. No, and it's, look, digital transformation, the adoption of new technology, it's all around the acceleration of change. And things and infrastructure are changing way more rapidly today than they were yesterday, and they'll continue to change and change faster. We come from a business where we traditionally were an appliance-based company where we were lucky if 50% of our customers were using our latest version within 2 years because we sell critical infrastructure. People don't want to change it. People don't want to update it. Now we augment that with cloud-delivered services where we can change things immediately, and that's critical because as everything is changing rapidly, you need your entire technology to be able to respond as well. And so I think that's one critical piece of it. You can't plan for a security strategy that assumes any static nature of anything and really need to drive towards microsegmentation of everything from workloads, data, endpoints, yet ensure, though, that you can observe everything and you can rapidly change based on current context.
So to add to that, like maybe you can also, Stuart, maybe you can tell us what are the challenges that in your job, like I'll open it to everybody, but those changes and technology changes, as you said, what does it make? How does it make your job harder? What's the challenges in your role in your organization?
It's a good question. I think, I guess what I'm finding is, maybe I'll put it in the context of what I'm hearing from customers in a lot of cases. But I think the challenge is the pace of innovation that's happening in market today. There's a lot of organizations that really struggle to keep up with that pace of innovation from a cyber, point of view and response point of view. The attackers and the bad actors that are out there are obviously using cloud technology and all sorts of global capabilities, to go after organizations and individuals today. So I think it's an opportunity. What we look at is, sort of a change that's happened in the industry over the last few years. Some customers are still in catch-up mode right now, where we've gone from a traditional, castle and moat type of architecture, where we had perimeter technology and firewall and IPS and IDS and every other security acronym at the gateway protecting our crown jewels, to a really highly distributed workforce these days, where the modern control plane, at least from a Microsoft point of view, is the identity, because it's the identity that's going to be the, that key to unlock access to services, maybe that key to be able to move laterally if you're a bad actor in the environment and elevate your privileges in order to get access to the crown jewels within the organization. So the rapid pace of change and innovation in the industry, I think, has been a challenge for some organizations, but it's also been a boon for a lot of customers as well, because you can start to adopt new technologies. There's a lot of new capability available from lots of different vendors, obviously from Microsoft included from a security point of view, to help and address today's modern challenges that organizations are dealing with.
Peter, as a security architect, does this make your job harder because you can't keep up, as they were saying?
Yeah, personally, you're right. It is hard. You've got to stay on top of a lot of the current buzzwords, the current technologies, the current really interesting things that are changing the world, and then you've got to communicate, because as has come out time and again, the customers are experiencing, the people we work with, our partners, they're having exactly the same challenges. They don't know what's going on. I mean, even before we get into products and services and solutions and things like that, just what is the new threat landscape? What does it mean to live in a world of zero trust when I can't start by saying, the stuff inside my fort is safe, now I need to worry? We have to work from a world where none of it can be trusted, at the beginning. And you've got to bring that learning, bring people to the point so that you can begin and move forward and actually take them somewhere.
So now that we talked about the disruption and the challenges, do you guys have any recommendation on how to prepare to minimize the disruption to your organizations or to your clients? Because a lot of you, like IBM and Microsoft. So for yourselves and to your clients, I'm going to start with you, Andrew.
Well, for one, I think certainly over the last few years, cyber has become something that was handled in the CISO's office, and now it becomes a practice in the way we build and deploy everything. And if we're not looking at weaving in security into whatever we're building, whatever we're deploying, whatever we're running, and looking at still as something we're going to do after the fact or something we're going to do with these people over there, then we're going to lose. And it's certainly from an internal perspective at BlueCat in terms of the skills and how we build products today versus before, but also looking at what our customers are struggling with. How do we drive things out there? They're designed to be secure, and that means security is part of literally everything we do, and I think that's a big change.
Exactly. I think everybody has to do that. David?
Yeah, I think disruption needs to be looked at as something you have to embrace. And so instead of minimizing it or avoiding it, it's like stress. You can't avoid stress. You have to figure out how to live with it. But from a disruption perspective, I think it comes down to culture. And as you're starting to move organizationally to digitally transform new ways of doing business, everything's going to be getting done much quicker. HR is going to be quicker. Procurement hopefully is quicker. That's always terrible. The projects are quicker. Everything's quicker. And so instead of saying, let's slow down, no, let's stop. I think it's important for security to adopt that mind frame as well. And, in terms of being able to do that, that might mean that you now have to look to vendors that are providing services and solutions that are highly flexible. Maybe, so you have a different contracting methodology that you employ with your outsourcers. That could be one. Another could be looking at actually having more people in your environment, but having them work less. What does that mean? Okay, well, you work less, but the time you're not working, you're actually training on new technologies, industry tips and trends and things like that. And I know there's a skills gap, so that's a bit of a catch-22 that we need to work with. But when you think about building your security organization, how you do operations, how you engage with the organization in projects, I think it's very important to figure out how do you start to think about doing things faster and building a culture, like a disruptive culture.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, if you know what's coming down the road from a new technology perspective, having your team make them dedicate time to learn the new technology is being prepared.
Yeah, that doesn't mean on their weekends, by the way. Organizationally thinking about how we get people, this is different. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's how do we make people feel like they can, that they're not overwhelmed and over disruptive, because disruption does kind of convert to a stress kind of reaction as well. And so how do we get to a point of almost full or greater than full employment where we're helping people to be able to keep those skills up to date without, destroying their family lives or communities?
Stuart, I'm going to ask you to think of your clients first, then yourself.
Sure, of course. Yeah, I think from a client point of view, first of all, everybody in this room here, whether you're an IT pro or security pro or defender or hunter, you've all got tough jobs. Like cybersecurity is not an easy industry. It's high pressure. The threat landscape is changing quite rapidly, and we're under a lot of pressure, obviously, from a business point of view. I see this all the time at customers, as the business wants to continue to, innovate and adopt cloud services to be able to get to market faster. I think we all know the benefits of cloud, but it puts a lot of pressure on the security department. I think what's interesting, what's changed is if you look at the cyber tower within organizations, historically they'd been known as Dr. No. The CISO was always known as Dr. No. No, we can't do that, or no, that's a risk, or no, no, no. The massive change that I've seen over the last few years from a client point of view is this drive toward partnership, right? Where CISOs and security executives are partnering very closely with the business from a couple of point of views. One is to make sure that there's alignment, obviously, when it comes to the business strategy, and making sure that when you're launching new services, that security is there arm in arm, that it's not an afterthought like we had talked about. It actually kind of reminds me of 15, 16 years ago, I was doing a lot of work in the application security assessment space, and it was always an afterthought for organizations. They'd run the assessment just as the application was about to go live and didn't offer any room for any of the remediation work. So it was always this debate with the executives: do we sign off on the risk, or do we delay the launch of the project and the application and miss our timelines? I think what we're seeing is there's a lot more integration and collaboration across the teams now, and an opportunity to work more closely with the business. The other thing that I'm seeing is more interest in diversity in talent, to help and solve different problems. And that's something that we need in this industry as well. I mean, it's something that we do at Microsoft too, is we're looking to hire, it's tough to hire good folks in the cybersecurity industry because there's such demand. So we're looking at alternate types of profiles of individuals that can bring a diverse thought process to the table, i.e. maybe look at people that have a military background or investigative background, law enforcement, people that are really good at investigations that may not know cyber, but we can train up on the cyber side, right? They bring different skills and capabilities to the table that allow us to think differently than we had historically as well.
Yeah, and building on that, Stuart, the people I work with change and have changed. Traditionally, 20 years ago, you were working with the traditional IT team. You were selling devices, that was the solution. The cloud teams have come, the people doing the innovative work in the organization. These days we work with business units. We're really, the buzz phrase is shifting left. But that means you're talking to an entirely new set of individuals who don't come, as you were saying, with a cybersecurity background necessarily. And that motivates hiring those kinds of people because it's not the traditional customer anymore. If we're going to do security right, if we're going to handle the cyber risk correctly, we've got to be embedded much earlier and work with those kinds of teams in an organization, getting introduced to them, and bringing their perspective, educating, and then actually being able to help them build security into their processes and into their thinking so that it becomes an integrated part of the solution. That's one of the big ways in which Trend and we're working today to make these kinds of things happen.
All right, thank you. So I wanted to ask you, have you started, and I don't know who's going to take this one, but who is want to talk to us about how you started the leveraging and harnessing the new technologies to reduce the work of your team or to make your threat defenses better for yourself or your customers?
I can start on that one, actually. So one of the things that we've noticed, obviously, is being a vendor of services, it's very difficult to find good people, to retain good people. Although in some countries we do find that our attrition rates are very low, and I think that's been really successful for us. But the level of growth, the pace of growth, still presents an issue for us to be able to keep up. And so one of the things that we've been able to do is leverage the fact that we have so much data, being a global company with over 1,000, actually 4,000 or 5,000 clients, where we're gathering data from them kind of on a regular basis. And taking that data and being able to develop algorithms and machine learning algorithms and suites of tools. Right now we've deployed one into production that we've got over 300 clients using, but there's another 5 that were patented that are coming, which allow us to be able to say, you know what, we don't have to be able to hire armies of people. Number one, you can't. But we're able to take the people that we have and kind of keep on a steady growth rate from a labor perspective, but actually get into more of an exponential growth rate as a result of taking on clients and coming up with outcomes with clients. So I think for us, AI has been huge to help us address that the skill gap issue.
Great. Any?
Yeah, for sure. It's about data, and data is a large part of it. I mean, from our perspective, working with our clients, a lot of them aren't leveraging what they have today, to help with what they're trying to do tomorrow as well. So there becomes this, we need something new, we need something new, we need something new, versus leveraging what's already there. And for us, that's always the case with DNS, because it's there, it's critical infrastructure, and what can I do with it? It's a phenomenal signal, and our customers are harvesting that signal. It's a very efficient control point as well. But in a world where things are changing very rapidly, then the base infrastructure needs to change as well. And so, but we often find that it's always something new, which actually makes things more complicated when other things around it are changing faster, and many things aren't leveraged. But certainly there's standards now that need to come out of documents, and policies that need to come out of documents and be realized in reusable technology that is consumed by the teams that are building things. because not everybody is going to be able to take these standards and realize them across all these different advanced technologies. So we see a lot of work going into realizing policies with technology that are in repeatable ways.
Yeah, the other thing that I think is interesting to see in the industry, just from a trend point of view, and some of the things that we're using to make life easier internally, is obviously a ton of automation, is huge. When you're operating, as Microsoft does, and if you look at AWS and GCP, hyperscale cloud, you can't operate these like a traditional data center, and you've got to have a lot of different considerations in how you operate it. I think the opportunity from an end user or customer point of view is just to move up the value stack of consuming different technologies, especially cloud technologies today. When you start at sort of the base of infrastructure as a service, move to platform as a service, then eventually to software as a service, you move up the value chain pretty significantly, and you also start to shift some of the responsibility. Notice that I said some, not all, but some of the responsibility from a security and governance and hygiene point of view over to the cloud provider. The big thing that customers have to realize, especially in small and mid-market areas, is that it is a shared responsibility model. Just because you're consuming a service like O365 or ServiceNow or Salesforce or you name your SaaS provider doesn't absolve your organization the responsibility to take care of things like security configuration, like the identity requirements associated with it, and make sure that you've got overall governance and visibility to what's going on. So there's a lot of stuff to make our lives easier. I think the thing that we have to balance it with is what's the potential risk and how do we harness the power of the cloud technology, all this information that we've got out there, as a finished product to help make us, to help allow us to make informed decisions in real time. And I think that's what some of the new technology today is helping to enable organizations to do, is get to market faster, but also do so with security at their side, so that you're not doing this with security as an afterthought.
Absolutely. Peter?
Thank you. Yeah, all good points, and I think the only thing that strikes me as an addition is leveraging the threat intelligence, leveraging and more importantly sharing. To the point of the keynote speaker, that intelligence more effectively, so that we can actually make this useful to not only to us, and that's the kind of the bias that people always think you've got a brand under your name, so that's who you're interested in. But really, it's taking what we've got and making everyone better.
Well, great. I was told by Brian we're running out of time, so we're going to open it up for the audience for Q&A.